Thank you very much. You've had a lot of facts thrown at you today, and a lot of about the process and how important that process is, and it's very important. And just before I begin my piece, just to say, Rianne said about the shadow report, Disability Action Northern Ireland, of which we're a constituent member, prepared a shadow report and did all the sort of things that Wales did and Scotland did, and we did also work with the independent mechanism in Northern Ireland and to prepare our report before we went to Geneva. So my focus now is Geneva itself, really what happened there and our reflections. There were 4 of us that went. Sorry, June's going to kill me. There were 5 of us that went. There was Patrick Malone from Disability Action, Karen Hall from Disability Action, and Alex. Where's Alex from, June? and there was myself. Have I forgotten anybody? Oh, June and June Best, UK ODI ambassador and human rights activist. We all went. So I suppose just to give a very quick, I'm covering 4 very complex areas: love, joy, unity, and realism. I'll start off with love, because that covers the other 3. Love is very important because when we went over to Geneva, and we had the privilege and the real honour of being asked for this historical event, and we can't underestimate how historic this event is. It's the first time that we've done it. It was the first time for me, it was the first time for any of us to stand in front of an international committee and share our thoughts in unity with the other 3 nations and say, this is how we feel the government's doing, but actually sharing that voice and speaking to disabled people, from disabled people, was an incredible, an extraordinary experience. It's safe to say it's probably one of the best experiences I've ever had in my entire human existence, and for me anyway, and I think for my colleagues, it was certainly a very strong reason for being. So one of the first things I learned was we were going over there to work. We were going over there to look at all the articles, look at our various shadow reports, how we were going to present it, how we were going to engage with the committee, what the protocols were, and we were entirely focused. And in the 3 days that we had the meetings, the bilateral meetings, our own separate meetings, and the discussions, we had Juan's beautiful guidance, giving us the protocol, telling us how to address the committee, what's preferred, how to do it, and preparing us for the 3-hour session that we had with the committee on the Monday from 3 o'clock to 6. We had an extra, I think we got an extra hour and a half because we were DPOs, so we got particular consideration, and there was also recognition, I think, that we were coming from a country with four different regions and their own complex issues within those regions. So there was an awful lot of work involved, and it was just basically working on the different articles, working on the key issues, what was highlighted in the shadow report, and also working with each other. I called it consensus building. We had consensus building over the 3 days as to who would speak, how we would engage, what the issues were. And that was done over a 3-day process. And I think what we decided was, it was better that, we had at least key speakers speaking for 5 minutes. 5 minutes on the key areas of importance. And then if there were any questions, there were questions then from the committee mid-session. They would ask their questions after we covered a number of themes. And then there would be people then to answer those questions. So that way, we did it in such a way that everybody was included. Everybody had a chance to participate. And I will say this, and I shouldn't say this, but Northern Ireland opened this session. I just want to say that, in case I forget. In case I forget, we opened this session. But anyway, courtesy of Patrick. Thank you, Patrick. So we had that process, and so we managed our time well. We weren't overloading the committee, and we were being very clear and precise about what we wanted to say. Juan was very clear to us about being professional, making sure our messages were clear, making sure we had agreed our presentations and the timings, And also, we did an awful lot of work with each other, all the different organisations right across the United Kingdom, to say, who would go first, how would be done. And we did an awful lot of consensus building and working out how it would all work. And also, there was a fluidity to the process, in the sense that we had people turning up that hadn't originally been there maybe the first day or the first evening. They would come up maybe the second day, or they maybe arrive on the day. So there had to be a certain flexibility to the process. But I think the earlier you arrive, the better it is for you and the issue that you want to represent. And I think the other important thing within that process, and this is as much important as being inside the UN itself and talking to the committee, is the building of unity with all the groups. The building, because, as individuals, we're not important. Even as individuals, organisations were not important. But when we're reporting for the entirety of the United Kingdom in unity, and we're speaking with one voice, the unity is very, very important. And if you get that unity, you then begin to see the joy, the absolute sheer joy of the process. I quickly became aware personally, it wasn't important that I necessarily spoke, or that I necessarily did this, or I necessarily did that. I was not important. But we, as a collective, were very, very important. And it was in our collective unity together that we made the difference. And because of that hard work, and because of the preparation, that we were able to be effective. The other thing that I learned was there has to be a high degree of realism. We learned, for example, that the members of the committee, they're all volunteers. They're disabled people, like me, like you. They're just ordinary people like you and me who have voluntarily decided to work for this international committee. So quite often they have their own challenges in terms of reasonable adjustments, in terms of things that they need. So we have to be careful in how we make our presentation and be inclusive of them and build unity with them. Not just what's important to the UK, but what's important to the committee. What do the committee need to hear? What are the particular things the committee members will be interested in? We learned, for example, that Stig, for example, the UK reporter for the committee, he was interested in learning disability, he was interested in the role of the independent mechanism, he was interested in this. We learned that the other committee member was interested in sensory impairment, deaf issues. They all have their own particular areas of interest. So it's about knowing the committee members and what their passions are and what their interests are, and being able to respond to that. And taking the opportunity in the breaks between sessions to talk to them, to engage with them during the break. But I think for me, I suppose the joy and love of the whole thing was watching it come alive. We talk about the voice of people with disabilities and how important that is. Here were the five of us, sorry June, sorry Alex, here were the five of us there in the middle of this, and we were watching and seeing ourselves, disabled people talking to disabled people about what issues matter to them. Article 4.3, the right to your views, your voice, speaking and engaging and influencing. Article 29, the right to participation in public life. All of the rights were coming into focus in this one instance because disabled people were speaking for themselves, and they were speaking with authority, and they were speaking with expertise, and they were speaking with professionalism. And that to me was the most amazing part of the process. And I finish with this on a personal note. When I was 16 years old and I was in home, and the staff members were having a disagreement with the Catholic children and the Protestant children about the Anglo-Irish agreement. The Catholic children wanted off because the Protestant children were getting off because they opposed the Anglo-Irish agreement, and the Catholic children wanted off if the Protestant children were going to get off. And they came to me, and I was sitting at the table, and this is, Tony, you have an interest in Irish history. What are your thoughts? I said, I don't know. But I do know that in 1972 there was a Charter of Human Rights for disabled people, but there isn't actually anything visible that says that disabled people have human rights. because we don't. What we do have in this particular moment in time is special needs. What we do have is a government that says that we're a burden, but we are not human beings. So in doing this process, it's not that we're going to get everything that we want and the government's going to be held to task and they're going to deliver everything within a year. It's a progressive process. It's a work in progress. But history is being made because you have human rights right in front of you. You have human rights as a framework. It's a benefit for the government. It's a benefit for disabled people. It's a benefit for everybody because at long last, and this is what Geneva teaches us, disabled people have joined the human race with fundamental human rights and entitlements. And that's what that process taught us. And we didn't see it. It wasn't a theory. It wasn't me having a discussion. It wasn't June or Karen or Patrick saying this or saying that. We watched it live in front of us. The human rights were being enacted. And that's what you have to remember with all the processes and the talk of the reports and the different complex issues and children's issues and Article 6, women's issues and Article 27, employment and work. You've got to remember the debate, the history is beginning. And what we're doing today isn't about what happens in August, on 23rd of August. It isn't just about what happens the following year. 50 years from now, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, long after we're gone, we're setting a landmark. We're making history. So that's the point. Disabled people are speaking for themselves, and they're doing it within a framework of human rights. No longer are you talking about special needs. No longer are you patronizing. No longer are you dismissing. Disabled people are now saying we're human beings entitled to fundamental human rights, and we're here to stay for the rest of time.